Breaking news today. Putin changes his attention after a missile strike killed 11 people, 5 of them children, following the tragic loss of 11 lives, including 5 children, just 40 miles from the epicenter of the battle. The Ukrainian Air Force has asserted that Russian forces have redirected their aerial attacks from large cities to frontline territory. Russia launched 3 missiles and 28 drones overnight, primarily at the southern districts of Dnipropetrovsk and Kherson. Russian forces are present in or near both areas. Yuri Anat, spokesman for the Ukrainian Air Forces, said that all 28 drones were neutralized. The 3 extra missiles, he informed The Independent, were S-300 anti-aircraft guided projectiles fired from the Donetsk region in eastern Ukraine, close to the front line. If they had been shot down, he would not disclose. This follows widespread condemnation of Saturday afternoon's Russian missile strike near Donetsk city that killed 11 people, including 5 children, in Pokrovsky. The strike was carried out by S-300s. The strikes, particularly the killings of children, truly horrified Denise Brown, the UN humanitarian coordinator for Ukraine. According to the governor of the portion of the Donetsk area held by Ukraine, 11 persons were killed in Saturday's Russian missile strike in the eastern Ukrainian city of Pokrovsk. At this time, the strikes on the Pokrovsk district have resulted in 11 deaths, 5 of whom are children. Vadim Filishkin posted on the messaging app Telegram. Donetsk, the Russian-controlled region center, is located around 80 kilometers, 50 miles, northwest of Pokrovsk, which is in Ukrainian-held territory. The Ukrainian government reports that 11 individuals, including 5 children, have been killed in an attack in eastern Ukraine caused by a Russian missile. Russia has been heavily bombarding major urban hubs in Ukraine, including the capital Kyiv, for days, and now it seems to be shifting its aerial attack to multiple frontline cities in the east. Vadim Filishkin, chief of Ukraine's military administration for the region, reported on Telegram that the town of Pokrovsk and adjacent villages in Donetsk Oblast were bombarded with S-300 missiles, resulting in the destruction of 6 houses. 5 children ranging in age from 3 to 17 years perished as a direct consequence of this savage assault, Mr. Filishkin stated. Additional details regarding the objective of Yoko Kamikawa's, Japanese foreign minister, visit to Kyiv have been revealed. Throughout the visit, Minister Kamikawa will once again emphasize to the Ukrainian side that Japan's consistent policy of standing with and supporting Ukraine remains unchanged, even in the face of the current severe international situation, the Japanese ministry said in a statement. In order to determine the best way to increase the level of cooperation between the two sides, Minister Kamikawa will meet with Ukrainian partners. The visit will also include a meeting between Ms. Kamikawa and her counterpart in Ukraine, Dmytro Kuleba. Japan will host the Japan-Ukraine Conference on February 19, demonstrating its commitment to the recovery and reconstruction of the country under public-private cooperation, according to the ministry. Ms. Kamikawa will personally send this message to Ukraine. An additional point was made that Kamikawa will represent Japan's resolve to protect the rule of law international system, which states that violent, unilateral alterations to the status quo, like Russia's aggression towards Ukraine, will not be tolerated. An unexpected visit by the Japanese foreign minister has taken place in Kyiv. The embassy in Kyiv reported that Yoko Kamikawa arrived early this morning. This 2024 trip marks her first international tour. On the northern suburbs of Kyiv, near Bucha, she visited a memorial to the victims of the Russian occupation. As soon as she arrived, during the initial 2 months of the conflict, the area was traversed by Russian forces until Putin's troops were compelled to withdraw. President Vladimir Putin, on the eve of Orthodox Christmas, urged his people to be merciful and just, and he committed to back soldiers who protect Russia's interests with arms in hands. He also ordered his government to provide stronger support to those who fight. Putin told the families of Russian servicemen who died in Ukraine that many of our men are courageous, heroic guys, Russian warriors, even now, on this holiday, defend the interests of our country with arms in hand. During a meeting with them late Saturday. Afterwards on Saturday, the Russian leader attended a private midnight ceremony, the Divine Liturgy, in a chapel at his Novoogoryovo residence outside of Moscow. With a small group of soldiers' families, as shown on state media, many Orthodox Christians commemorate the festival on January 6 to 7. But unlike last year, Putin has not called for a truce in Ukraine to coincide with it. The Ukrainian Air Force reported that Russia attacked their country overnight with 28 attack drones and 3 cruise missiles. 21 of the drones were neutralized by their air defense systems. According to the Air Force's Telegram messaging channel, Russia primarily targeted the southern and eastern regions of Ukraine. However, the channel did not specify what became of the 3 cruise missiles that were allegedly launched by Russia. Yuri Anat, a spokeswoman for the Ukrainian Air Force, told national television that the enemy is moving their attacks to the frontline lands, specifically the Kherson and Dnipropetrovsk districts, where drones were used. According to both military and civilian sources, there have been no injuries or damage reported. According to Mr. Anat, mobility teams mostly eliminated drones, which allowed the air defense weapons to preserve their scarce supply. Processes are underway to continue to supply Ukraine with the number of missiles needed to repel air attacks, he said, adding that Ukrainian forces have employed some missiles to ward off 2 recent big advances by Russia. During the latter half of 2023 and the early days of 2024, Russia launched attacks using about 300 missiles and over 200 drones. President Zelensky demanded that Russia's frozen funds be utilized to bolster Ukraine on X, the platform formerly known as Twitter. An entirely just and legitimate response would be to allocate $300 billion to Ukraine's efforts, he claimed. Roughly $300 billion worth of Russian assets are currently frozen abroad, he stated. They ought to be deployed in aid of the Ukrainian people. The chance to hold the terrorist state accountable for its terror has never been greater. Russian politicians and elites prioritize financial gain above all else, and they could care less about the lives of ordinary citizens. The loss of possessions will hurt them more than anything else. The world's collective might will be palpable, and they will realize that terror cannot defeat it. The decision to back Ukraine with blocked Russian assets is a just and legal response to Russia's aggression. It will show all would-be aggressors that going for another state's sovereignty never pays off. Rather, it always ends badly for the aggressor. Partners, please act swiftly on applicable legal frameworks. Ukraine needs us to make real headway this year in unfreezing Russian assets for their benefit. In this regard, we place our full faith in the G7 leadership and what the British government perceives as yet another strike against Vladimir Putin. They have decided to invest £300 million in developing specialized fuel for use in future nuclear reactors, an essential fuel for modern reactors. High-assay low-enriched uranium, HALEU, is presently exclusively commercially manufactured in Russia. However, with the help of government funds, local manufacturing of HALEU will be supported, according to Energy Security Secretary Claire Coutinho. Britain's HALEU program has the potential to sell reactor fuel globally, further isolating Moscow. Moscow has been sanctioned by the West since its invasion of neighboring Ukraine in February 2022. Ms. Coutinho declared, "We won't let him hold us to ransom on nuclear fuel. We stood up to Putin on oil and gas and financial markets." Christian Epiphany was celebrated on Saturday by Ukrainians. Since Russia invaded Ukraine in February 2022, the country has sped up its shift to Western dates for Christian feasts, even though historically the majority of Ukrainians have observed them according to the Julian calendar used by Eastern Orthodox churches. AS Kiev continued to pursue its strategy of attacking the peninsula that Moscow had annexed and expanding the scope of the 22-month conflict far beyond Ukraine's borders. Russian air defenses reportedly shot down dozens of Ukrainian drones in occupied Crimea and southern Russia on Friday. The capital of Crimea, Sevastopol, was rocked by the sound of air raid sirens as a bridge linking the peninsula, illegally acquired by Moscow a decade ago, to the southern Krasnodar region of Russia remained closed for a second day in a row. For Russia's military effort, the bridge provides an essential supply conduit. Russian defenses reportedly shot down 36 drones over Crimea and 1 over Krasnodar in recent days, as part of a trend of more intense aerial attacks by the Ukrainians.